Hey, episode 89 of the Nashville Artist Podcast is out, featuring Kameron Jane. Kameron is a singer, songwriter, and musician from the band Jane and the Killer Queens, who also happens to be a proud spider lover. Kameron is a complex artist, both enigmatic and unpredictable, which makes for an engaging conversation. Growing up, she often struggled to communicate with those around her, but through music she found a powerful cathartic release. Her songs are a vibrant expression of female rage and empowerment. With a mission to spread love, Kameron seeks to create a space for misfit kids, reminding them that they truly belong. Having experienced bullying and feeling misunderstood herself, she uses music as a way to make her voice heard. In this episode, you'll learn about her unique songwriting process, how she often starts with just one lyric and builds an entire song around it. Kameron draws inspiration from musical icons like David Bowie, Lady Gaga, The Cure, Typo Negative, Leonard Cohen, Hozier, and Sturgill Simpson. She has a special fondness for Bowie's 2000s era. Enjoy the podcast episode.
Not much. I was up way later than I was supposed to be. And so I just set an alarm, woke up, showered, fed my pets.
Oh yeah?
Came here.
How many pets do you have?
I have a cat. Her name is Ned Flanders.
Ned Flanders?
Yeah, she's just a big, fat, old girl that likes to cuddle. She does nothing really but sleep and walk around the house. And then I have a tarantula.
Nice.
And her name is Elise.
Wow.
She's a curly hair tarantula.
Wow, how long have you had the tarantula?
Only since October. She's, the breeder said that she is like a year and a half, 2 years old, but she'll live to be 20, so
Wow.
I've got her for a while.
Wow, outlived the cat.
Yeah, she'll outlive the cat.
How long have you had the cat?
Ned, gosh, we got her in like 2013, 2014, so she's probably about 10 years old.
Wow.
I'm tired.
The cat wears you out?
No, I just was not speaking correctly because I'm not on a lot of sleep right now.
Were you laid out on Broadway?
No, I was up late watching Sex and the City on Netflix. I wish I had a cooler answer, but last night was one of my nights off, so I made a good dinner and curled up in my bed and put Sex and the City on my laptop and watched a few episodes and stayed up way too late watching it.
Wow. What season are you on?
I'm on season 5, so I'm almost done. There's only 6 seasons of the TV show.
Okay.
So I'm really close to being over with it. I think after that I'm going to check The Sopranos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on the older shows.
Older shows,
but
yeah.
I feel like I need to know.
What are some of your favorite older shows other than those two?
Oh gosh, this isn't necessarily it's a TV show, but it isn't like a scripted thing. I love Forensic Files.
Forensic Files?
I love Forensic Files. It's not like I'm a huge true crime junkie, but there's something about the Dateline and Forensic Files and just those hour specials where they tell you these crazy crime scenes. I love it. I could sit and watch Forensic Files and Dateline for
Dateline, like PBS?
Yeah.
I love Dateline PBS.
Yes, I could watch that for 3 days straight.
Amazing documentaries.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you never know what's going to happen. Every time you think you know who did it, they're like, but guess what? It's great.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah, PBS is the greatest. I was watching a shitload of documentaries back in September. I went through a huge 9/11 phase.
A huge 9/11 phase?
Yeah,
those aren't words that I was expecting to come out.
Studying a lot of that, and the best documentaries of it were PBS, Dateline.
Mm-hmm. yeah, I don't know. I'm a big documentary person. That's my favorite, like, genre, and mockumentaries as well. I love a good, like, stupid humor, like Best in Show, like stuff like that.
Yeah, Best in Show.
Oh, I love a good mockumentary.
Or Waiting for Guffman.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Well, it's the same person who made Best in Show.
Sure, I'd love it.
Or
then.
like, what is it called? Spinal Tap.
Yes. Have you seen the series on Netflix called Documentary Now?
I've heard of it. I don't think I've watched it.
It is so good. It's like little hour specials, and they're all making fun of real documentaries and like satirizing them. And they've got a great one making fun of Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
And Bill Hader is in it. He plays Little Edie. And that is maybe one of my like favorite pieces of art ever. Is just Bill Hader pretending to be Little Edie for an hour in this Documentary Now series. It's hysterical. If you've ever seen Grey Gardens, like, you can tell that he did his homework. He is spot on.
Okay, yeah.
It's so good.
I'm not familiar with Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens is a documentary from, like the 70s or 80s, and it was following Little Edie and her mother, who are descendants of the Kennedy family. And they were both, like, living in this estate that was dilapidated and falling apart, and they're both just like out of their minds. The documentary just follows this girl and her mom like living together in this house, and they're both nuts. And it's incredible. It's hysterical to watch.
Okay,
And
I'll have to watch that.
Highly recommend it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Nashville Artist. I'm Jordan, and today Kameron Jane is here.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming over and doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. So where are you from?
I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I'm from over the river. I've found that there's a lot of people actually here from Ohio. I don't know.
I've met a lot of people from Ohio, definitely. In Indiana, in Illinois.
I think because we're stuck inside because of the snow, like 4 months out of the year, we have nothing left to do than like learn how to be a musician. And that somehow sense. We all end up down here. That's my theory.
A lot of my favorite musicians are from Ohio or the Midwest.
Who?
Danny Carey of Tool, Maynard James Keenan of Tool, Adam Jones of Tool, some of the guys in Rage Against the Machines. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I mean, even, I'm not as big of a fan now, but I mean, Axl Rose is from Indiana or whatever. A lot of bands, like you said, they have nothing to do. They're stuck inside. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
And so they have nothing but time to get better at their instrument.
Yeah, for 4 months out of the year, it's like 0 degrees outside. So you sit inside and you find an instrument. Or if you're in like the middle, like lower middle part of Ohio, you can also do heroin. Apparently that's a big thing over there.
Oh, wow.
I figured being a vocalist would probably be a little more beneficial.
I've actually never been to Ohio, but I've heard people say about Dayton, you'll see a lot of Hatchet Man stickers on the backs of cars, and
that you'll see tattoos too. I'll see the Hatchet Man tattoo over there every once in a while, and that's always when I know, like, oh, this is a bar I probably shouldn't be in.
Right. That's wild. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 2 younger brothers, Corey and Parker. Corey he's 21, and he is about to leave Concordia College up in Michigan, where he was a linebacker, and actually transfer to Belmont at the end of August.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. He's coming down here too. Really, really fabulous, like, country picker on the acoustic guitar. So He's going to come down here and get a business degree and see if he can hop on Broadway and be like his big sister and do some country picking. So
yeah.
We'll see what happens. And the other one is 15. His name's Parker. He's another football kid. I'm the only one in the family that didn't do anything athletic. I was like just a nerd. And he doesn't really have a music streak. He just plays sports. He's like a true like athlete. So
that's cool. Mm-hmm. What about your parents? Are they into music and art?
They're not musicians themselves, but they're 100% to thank for me being passionate about my own music. They raised me on a lot of different artists, and I'm really like thankful that I'm so like well-rounded and that I've heard so much from them. Gosh, this is mean. Like, neither of them can hold a tune. That's like the joke, is that we don't know where my voice and my brother's voice came from because neither of my parents can sing. or play any instruments, and nobody was really musical in the family. My grandmother did like some gospel choir, but they're not musicians. My dad owns a healthcare like insurance company, and my mom just keeps the house and is a good mom.
Nice. What are their names?
Roseanne and Tommy.
Roseanne and Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, what were you into as a little kid?
I was into weird stuff. I never really was into normal things. I never really had a lot of friends. I was a weirdo. I was super, super into David Bowie and Lady Gaga. Those were like the two like obsessions that I had growing up, starting about like 7 or 8 years old and on.
Wow.
Never got into the Justin Bieber, One Direction, Taylor Swift thing. I was 9 years old telling people that my favorite song was China Girl by David Bowie. So
That's awesome. What era of David Bowie is your favorite?
okay, so people hate me for this. While 70s and 80s Bowie, like, like we have like Thin White Duke and all that, like has my heart. There is something about like that mid 2000s Bowie where he released like Lazarus and Stars Are Out Tonight and all that, where I don't know why, but those last two albums, The Next Day and Lazarus, well, Black Star, sorry, like
Yeah,
just I'm obsessed.
On his
I'll listen to any Bowie, but
yeah,
I love those two albums.
that's awesome. My middle brother is obsessed with David Bowie too. Like the reason I know much about David Bowie is because he would tell me everything about David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he really was like the driving factor in I think so in like the identities of so many musicians today.
definitely.
The amount of musicians today that credit him for inspiring them to look the way they do, perform the way they do, write the way they do, it's incredible. I like most musicians I've spoken to always name him as one of like their icons that they looked up to.
Yeah, he was extremely strange.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I loved about him. I love weirdos.
Yeah.
That's the only time I feel comfortable is when I'm surrounded by like weird people.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. What Lady Gaga, you can definitely see the influence.
Oh yeah.
When she came out, I was like super into Lady Gaga when she came out, first album.
March to Fame.
Yeah, used to play my drums to it. Used to play it at parties.
It's one of the best albums of all time.
Yeah.
I'll fight to the death over that.
Right. I'll never forget when she was like all bloody doing the paparazzi.
Oh my gosh.
On TV.
Yes.
I had that saved on DVR. I would show my friends, like, dude, watch this. Saying because
I have a signed photo of that exact like of that like moment when she was like hanging with like the blood all over her. It's iconic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love her. I remember being like younger and I bought like that Time magazine like special on her. Time did a special on her, and the entire magazine was just about her and her inspirations and her life. And there was a whole section where she named like every performer before her that she was inspired by, and David Bowie was like number 1 or 2.
Right.
So
awesome. What else were you into as a kid other than David Bowie and Lady Gaga?
I really loved musical theater for a bit. Phantom of the Opera was my favorite. It still is like secretly my guilty pleasure. I walk around the house by myself still singing the soundtrack. But yeah, I did a Phantom of the Opera for some reason I became obsessed with. I think that's what got me into singing.
Oh, okay.
Before that, with like the Bowie and Gaga stuff, I was just always listening to it. I never like was like, oh, I can do this. But for some reason, Phantom of the Opera, singing it horrifically, might I add, at like 11, 12 years old around my house, I was like, oh, I would like to sing one day. And I ended up doing musical theater, and like probably like from 14 to 20 years old, just it was all taken up by musical theater and working with the theater companies in Ohio. That's all I did.
Wow. So that's what originally got you into singing, Phantom of the Opera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a weird thing. But yeah, in 6th grade, Mrs. Hatfield, my music teacher, she used to thank for this. She made us all watch Phantom of the Opera, and I'd never seen a musical really before. I'd never like really truly heard of like theater and all that. I was like 11, 12 years old. And I remember, wow, this music is beautiful. And going home and looking it up on YouTube. This is back in the day when you still had like a computer room in your house.
The computer room.
And I'd like take over the computer room and watch videos of like the live productions, any of the movies, like any Phantom of the Opera movie out there, I've seen it. I read the books. I was obsessed with it.
Wow.
And my parents were like, okay, well, if you're going to keep walking around and like singing this like off key, like we're going to have to get you voice lessons so that we can stand like hearing you sing this soundtrack. So I ended up actually going into opera training, and hopefully along the way I figured out how to sing in key.
What is it about the Phantom of the Opera that has you so mystified?
I don't know. The music is just gorgeous. I loved the visuals. The movie that I was introduced to it through was the really cheesy 2004 Joel Schumacher.
I remember that one
with Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum and Patrick Wilson. And like the costumes, the visuals were incredible. I still think of that one like giant pink dress that Carlotta was wearing in it. And I thought Gerard Butler was so handsome. And you can ask anybody that knew me during that era. I was insufferable to be around because it was all I talked about as a child was that I wanted to grow up and be in Phantom of the Opera. Okay.
Do you still want to be?
I think it'd be cool. I still have the opera chops. I don't obviously really use them very much, but I still do like classical like opera warm-ups and stuff before I sing. And I think it would be cool one day if the band blew up and Broadway wanted to do one of those stunt casting things, I would totally be up for it.
That's awesome.
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So why would you say you're drawn to singing and art?
I was a very misunderstood child, and I wasn't very listened to, and I was bullied pretty badly. And I found that as I started to put my time into art and singing and writing music, that was the only time that I truly felt listened to and that I felt like my message was getting across. And I still feel like that today. I feel like I'm not a super well-spoken person. I can't really sit and tell you how I feel about something or what's going on inside of me. But if I put it into a song and I sing it the way that it's coming out of me, I feel like I'm getting my message across better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I felt like music was the way that I finally was heard and that I finally was able to communicate with people. I never felt like growing up that I was able to communicate with people and be on the same side as them. I never really got along with other kids. Other kids didn't know how to handle me. They didn't know how to be around me. And that led to a bunch of other stuff that we can get into later. But when I was on stage in a musical, in an opera, at a recital, and now like doing this with these shows and that people are coming out and like rocking out to and like seeing people sing my lyrics back to me, I have this feeling of like I'm finally understood. At 24 years old, I'm finally understood.
Awesome.
That's what drives me and keeps me into it.
Nice. How do you develop your artistic skills now? Do you have like routines for singing and creating?
It's not necessarily a routine. I like to keep things as natural as they can be. I don't like feeling like I'm being forced to create a product. So I never like sit down and I'm like, okay, I need to write 3 songs this week. This is how I'm going to do it. Things will come to me naturally as I'm usually driving or in the shower for some reason. And that over time will come together to create a song. I wish I had some like really cool process like all these other musicians, but it really is just me going about my daily life and things pop in my head. I'll put it in my notes, and then a few days later I'm like, okay, I have all these ideas that I came up with for the past few days. I think I can make a chorus out of this and then build a song around that.
Nice. You said like, so Lady Gaga and David Bowie are your favorite singers of all time?
My favorite performers. Maybe not my favorite. I mean, they're both incredible vocalists, but
who are your favorite singers of all time?
Not necessarily that his vocals are like incredible, but just the way that he performs, the way his voice sounds, the emotion behind it. I love Robert Smith from The Cure. Peter Steele from Typo Negative. When I'm listening to music and like vocalists, obviously it's really cool to have your like Celine Dion's and Adele's that can just like hit these gorgeous notes and have incredible technique. But what really like pulls me in is like emotion and like depth behind the voice. I would rather you not sound perfect and like really convey to me and make me feel what you're writing about versus like not really have emotion behind your voice and just belt it out. I'm not saying that like Selena or Adele does that, but it's what I'm just drawn to people that you almost sound hurt when they sing. I know that sounds really messed up, but
it touches you.
It does. It touches me. And Robert Smith has just this like heartbroken sound to his voice.
Takes you away.
It does. It does. It especially when he sings about, you know, how much he loves his wife and that kind of stuff. He may not be hitting the perfect notes and having this gorgeous, like soaring high belt, but he has a pretty voice and he's got an emotional voice, and you feel like the love and you feel what he's harboring inside of his body when he sings. Peter Steele's the same way. You feel just all the hurt and the years behind that voice when he sings.
Right. He's like, I admire Kurt Cobain because he was strong enough to kill himself, and I'm not.
Oh my God.
That's what he said.
I've actually never heard that quote from him.
Yeah, he's like, I admire Kurt Cobain because he was able to do it, and I haven't been able to do it.
Well, he died really young. He died in his 50s in, I think, 2010.
Yeah.
So he wasn't far after.
I know. But I'm like, damn, dude, you are really depressed.
Very depressed, very dark. I recently got to meet and become friends with a woman that knew him very well. She wasn't a groupie. She was just like a friend of the band. And she has stories of, you know, how kind of tortured he was and how he'd speak to people. And I feel like in another lifetime, if I wasn't 10 years old when he died and I'd gotten to grow up and be an adult and meet him, I have a feeling that Peter Steele and I would have identified with each other.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we have some things in common.
Yeah, he's a very tall and imposing figure.
And he was gorgeous. Oh. He was such a pretty man, but that's beside the point. I love his voice. That just deep, like, God, he just everything sat in his chest.
Right. Black,
number one. Yeah, everything just came from like right here, and it was so dark and like deep and like just sat like deep within his body, and he had a really cool voice.
He's like a vampire.
Yeah. That Blood Moon song, have you ever heard that?
I think so. I've listened to a couple of songs. I can't remember what all their names are, but I just remember like, man, this guy sounds like he's really embodying like full moon, black, like dark vampire.
That October Rust album, another one that I say is one of the greatest albums of all time. That album is just like masterpiece after masterpiece.
Awesome. So you kind of described your creative process. It's more like organic and not forced. Do you have like, how do you go about doing that with your band or?
So I did not know that this was weird to do until people from other bands were coming up and telling me how they do it. And when they heard how we write music, they were like, that's really uncommon. I thought this was totally normal. Like I said, I'll be driving or in the shower or just going about my day, and I'll think of one lyric and I'll write it down, and then I will build a song around that. I'll usually start with figuring out the chorus, or I'll figure out a single verse incorporating, you know, the idea that I had, and then I'll write the song around that. I'll come up with a very loose melody, figure out the key and like the bass chords to it. Then I'll sit and I'll strum on my guitar. And I'll record a voice note, and I'll tell the guys at the beginning, like, okay, we're in standard tuning, key of A minor, A, C, G, E. And I will just record myself really lightly singing through and strumming it and send it to them. And the guys will have like a week to kind of sit with it and play with it and see if they can come up with riffs or ideas of like, hey, here we could do this, or what if we did a drum fill here or whatever. And then we'll come back together in the studio on Tuesday nights, and they'll kind of present things to the group, and all together, based off that voice memo and the ideas that they've come up with separately, we'll patch the song together. And usually after about 2 or 3 hours, we'll have a song. But I did not know that that's not a normal thing to do.
What is normal?
I don't know. Apparently, like, the band leader, the singer-songwriter, is just supposed to write everything and be like, this is what you guys are playing.
Wow.
I didn't know. But like, am I the band leader, like, technically, as far as like, I handle most of like the business side of it and like the writing and like scheduling and aesthetics and that kind of stuff? Yes. But it's not my band. Like, all 4 of us are Jane and the Killer Queens. Like, I am just Jane if the boys aren't with me, and they're the true like heartbeat, like backing of the music that I'm writing. So it wouldn't make sense to me for me to be like, hey, like, I wrote this whole song, this is what you're playing. I want to bring them like my contribution, my lyrics, my melody, and be like, have fun with it. This is your song too. You're writing this. Like,
yeah, I think that's way more organic than the whole dictator, like, you play this.
Apparently that's really common, and I didn't know that.
That's like the Kevin Parker way of doing it.
Yeah, just like, this is my band, this is what you're playing. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah.
You know?
I
don't like that. I would feel bad, and I also think the guys wouldn't be having nearly as much fun in the band.
No, probably not. I think the way you do it is really awesome.
Thank you.
So, how did your band, Jane and the Killer Queens, come about?
So back in like June of 23, there was a gentleman that I hung out with a few times, and he knew that I wrote a lot of music, and he was like, hey, if you ever want like a guitarist to play around with this stuff, let me know. So us two kind of started getting together and doing acoustic things, and we ended up kind of going out and scouting Anthony, our drummer, for the band. And then Anthony was very good friends with Alex Shipley, who is our bassist, and he brought him in. And from June to September is when all of that happened, us like finding band members and writing. And then October, on Halloween, we had our first show. We opened for the Criticals for a Halloween show, and we premiered our 5 songs that we had written over that period of time. Now that guitarist that I started with is no longer with the band. There were, some issues within the band, and we had to let him go a few months ago. And now we have Diego Vargas, who, like, oh my gosh, did he level up the band when he joined? He's incredible. Like, we went from here to here when he joined the band. He takes us off like a rocket ship. And since he has joined the band, we've been able to put a lot more time into writing and kind of like creating like a band bond, creating content. Like, with the old guitarist in the old group, it felt like we were having to kind of like drag people, and we were all playing music like in a group. We weren't like a band. And now that Diego's filled that missing like puzzle piece, like, those are my brothers. This is our band. Like, it took some time, but almost a year later, we had what was really supposed to be going on.
Nice. So. What is your dream venue to play?
Red Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking with my dad about that last night. He just bought tickets to a show in September at Red Rocks, and he sent me a photo of the venue, and he was like, can you hurry up and get famous so that we can watch you play here? And I was like, oh my God, I'm trying. I want to play Red Rocks really, really bad. The Greek Theater in LA is another one. The Troubadour in LA, the Whiskey a Go-Go. If I want to be like really overzealous and really be a dreamer, Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Everybody wants to hit Madison Square Garden or Bridgestone.
Yeah, Bridgestone Arena or Bonnaroo.
Yeah, there's lots of dream venues. I'd love to even though I do rock music, I'd love to have like an evening at like Royal Albert Hall or like Her Majesty's Theatre or something over in Europe with like an orchestra.
Wow,
I'd
yeah, that'd be
love
awesome.
I'd love to do like a hard rock like orchestra evening. I think that would be badass with our music. But
Yeah. What show is your dad seeing at Red Rocks?
I want to say it's like Billy Strings or something. It's
Oh,
some
really?
kind of country artist, like folky thing.
Oh, yeah. That's more his alley or what he's into.
Yeah, yeah. I love like folk, like bluegrass music. It's what I was raised on. It's what I actually listen to a lot of the time when I'm not like in the headspace of like writing or like being creative. If I'm just relaxing, I listen to a ton of folk music and a ton of bluegrass music. And that's what they raised me on. They raised me on a lot of like James Taylor, John Denver, Sammy Kershaw, like Willie, Cash, like all that old stuff. That's
Neil
what they
Young.
listened to. My mom is a little bit of a Neil Young fan, but I didn't grow up hearing a ton of it.
Oh, really?
Like Harvest Moon,
Oh, yeah.
beautiful song, love that song, but there's not a ton of Neil Young that I know.
Oh, I see.
Hmm.
That's cool, though. Folk music.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I would listen to now. So,
Nice. What other genres of music do you listen to?
um, so besides the folk, which is my like Hosier, Sturgill Simpson, Sierra Farrell, like James Taylor, the nice like soft, pretty stuff. If I want to get like hyped up, I love like what I call like nasty girl pop. And it's kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine. Like no, like I won't really let people like hang out around me while I'm listening to it. But Ash Nico, if you know who
Shaniqua.
that is, she does just like yeah, like nasty girl pop. Aisha Erotica, I love some of her stuff. I'm starting to really get into Chapel Roan.
Oh,
She
yeah.
makes that like fun, flirty, like girl stuff. There's something like Marina. She used to be Marina and the Diamonds, and now she's just Marina. She's another like fun, like girl pop. There's just something about I love like the pure like femininity of it. So when I really need to like be feeling myself and like I'm having like a low self esteem day, I have am I allowed to cuss
Yeah.
on this? There's a playlist that my bassist Alex made, and it said "Serving at the Cunt Cafe," and it's like all these like there's Megan the Stallion on it, just like
Oh, yeah.
girl anthems.
Turn
And
up.
yeah, it's a turn up playlist for sure. And he made that, and I use it to get like hyped up for our shows. So when
That's
I'm not relaxing listening to my folk music around the house, that's what I have on.
nice. That's awesome. So, what are some important things to consider when you write a song?
Um, how it's going to be received by the audience. I try to be broad enough with my descriptions that most people can find something to relate, but detailed enough that it's obvious what the song is about. Um, like you'll probably never catch me writing a song that's just like about a beautiful day. I need to be more detailed with that. I need to tell a story. Um, more like, and I'm very much into like when you would be in elementary school and they would tell you how you write a story. You have you know, introduction, conflict, resolution. Like that is how I see the song. So the beginning of the song, I have to introduce the characters, the setting, what's going on. We have our conflict, which is usually a chorus. I treat the chorus as the conflict, and the resolution is usually a final verse, or sometimes I'll turn to Diego and be like, "Go off! You're the resolution. Go, shred for a minute." Um, it's a storytelling process for me. I very much look at either Peter Steele or Leonard Cohen in terms of like lyric writing inspiration. Robert Smith is another good one for storytelling. They might not be like the most beautiful vocalists in the world, but their lyrics and the way that they write, you can sit and read them and you can see exactly what was going on in their head when they put the lyrics out. And that's what I try to emulate. I never want somebody to walk away and be like, I have no idea what that song is about.
Oh, yeah.
That you have to think when you're singing along to us.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. So, what would you say like inspires your creativity?
Um, Like, just in terms of, like, my music, or just, like, how I, like, live my life? Like,
how you live your life, like what inspires, what drives you, and
I have a dark answer and I have a light answer. The light answer is just that I love creating, and I love, like, as private and quiet as I am off stage, being on stage, I love it. There's a light, and I love, like, just sharing, like, the energy and the love I have for that moment with everybody else. The lighter end of, like, what drives my creativity is just wanting to, like, love people and, like, share that love with people. And I have this feeling in my body that everybody in the room at a performance, I want to, like, hug each and every one of them and be like, I love you so much, I care about you so much. Like, this performance, it isn't you watching me, it's us experiencing something together. The dark answer of what drives my creativity is, like, proving people wrong. I was not treated great growing up. I did not have many friends. I was really, really badly bullied. And even honestly, up until about a year ago, I was accepting a lot of, like, bullying from people close to me. And I consistently grew up with people telling me, like, you're weird. Nobody will ever love you. You'll never be anything special. Like, why are you here? And, like, selfishly, part of what drives me is wanting to be able to have that, like, look at me now moment. Not in, like, a I'm so great, look at what I'm doing, but just a, like, you didn't stop me.
right,
I still am happy and I'm doing what I love. Like, you weren't as powerful as you thought you were.
right.
So that sounds, like, kind of, like, shitty to say,
Nah,
but the wanting to love people and love the people that are misunderstood and love the weirdos, like, I never, the other people that grew up treated the way that I was treated. I want them, I think what drives me is just wanting to show them that they're loved and they're appreciated, and, like, there is a place for us. We could all have that moment of, like, you didn't stop me.
yeah,
Look at me now. And so I think those two kind of, like, intermix in a way, and, like, a yin yang. Like, it's not a revenge fantasy because I'm not really getting revenge. I'm just being happy and, driving my own success. But there is something, like,
success is the best revenge.
yeah, there's something nice about, like, being able to look back at somebody that told you that you were nothing and be like, look at how happy and loved I am now. You tried to stop that and you couldn't, and I love my life, and you did not convince me to end it like you thought you would.
I understand. What did they just not like that you were really into theater and stuff? Like,
I was just weird. I am not a, like, neurotypical human being. I'm very socially awkward. Um, People, like, joke around here, like, jokingly call me a ghost because if I'm not doing something related to, like, work, I don't leave the house. And so if I do ever, like, go to a show, people are like, "Oh my God, what are you doing out of your house? Why are you here?" And I've always been that way. I've always kept to myself, sat in a corner. I always had a sketchbook or, like, a notepad with me, like, writing lyrics or drawing or whatever. And I didn't know how to talk to kids, so I said weird things, just trying to fit in. I wanted so badly to have friends and to be understood, and nobody really got it. And kids in their formative years, and honestly adults still, are very cruel to people that they don't understand. They're threatened and off put by people that are different than them and work differently. And that's just what happened. I kind of walked around with a chip on my shoulder for a good part of my teenage years just because I was being tortured. And I think by my senior year, I was spending all my time in the radio classroom. I had a teacher that would write me passes to get out of class for, like, radio work. And I actually would just go sit in her office and, you know, edit music all day so I could not be in class where people would walk by and tell me, like, to kill myself and all this kind of stuff. And there were Instagram profiles going around called Cammy Should Kill Herself, and people would send me suicide videos and be like, when you get home from school today, you should try this. Like, there were really awful rumors spread. Like, and it is like, I don't want to say like kids will be kids because it was cruel, but it is just how like naturally people that age, when they're forming and developing their own identity, that's just naturally how they kind of respond to people that they don't get.
Understand, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, up until even a year ago, I was dealing with that. So
Awesome. Or I mean, I understand.
yeah, it's a driving force for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be an inspiration to those who have experienced the same thing.
I don't necessarily want to use the word inspiration because I feel like that sounds egotistical. Like,
Influence.
yeah, I'd like to influence people. I am the biggest weirdo I know. And my dream, my hope is that someday out there, I will be on a stage in one of my crazy outfits, singing one of my crazy songs, being a totally authentic, weird individual, and that like somewhere out there, there'll be another 9, 10-year-old Cammy that doesn't have any friends, that doesn't know why she's here, that's sitting scrolling on YouTube on her phone, watching a video and being like, oh, there are people like me out there. Like, and she's happy and people love her and she's doing what she wants and she's actually celebrated for how bizarre she is. Like, my hope is that I can do that for another little 9-year-old that needed somebody to look up to.
Definitely. Sounds like you're really good at entertaining yourself.
What do you mean by that?
Like since you spent a lot of time alone, you were able to like use that time wisely in ways that brought you fulfillment.
I try. My brain is never stopping. I always either have a song idea or like just my own little like narratives, stories and stuff running through my head.
Rich inner world.
Yeah. Oh, there's always something weird going on up here that nobody else knows about. And that's how it always was. I had imaginary friends growing up. I would write like novel-sized short stories about what was going on in my head. I would draw, I would paint, like that was just how I entertained myself. I didn't really have friends, so I kind of like made my own up here and on a paper, and
awesome.
that's
Constructive way to use, your gifts.
I'd like to think so.
Cool. So what would you say your songs represent?
My songs represent, if I want to just give like a short, concise answer, like female rage, the anger and like hurt that I've like held in over multiple years, I'm finally kind of letting free and putting into this music. I think a lot of other women in the audience resonate with it. We're told to keep quiet and not cause a scene. And now that I have the platform to do so, I'm causing the biggest scene. I I'm just fine. I'd say it represents, I'm just finally letting go like every feeling I've ever had.
Awesome. Catharsis.
Yeah. Writing is very cathartic for me. Like all just the hate, anger, pain that I've held in that I've never really gotten to talk about because it would make me sound and look crazy. Now I'm finally putting it into music, and it does make me sound and look crazy, but I'm thankfully at a point now where I just don't care.
Right. And it's in the way that you would want it to be released.
Yeah, it isn't, I don't have to get on a YouTube video and like rant at a camera for an hour about how angry I am and how everything sucks. I'll write a cool song, then I get to perform that repeatedly, and every time I perform it, I'm reliving that emotion and like setting it free.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the audience, when they're screaming along with something, they're setting something else free. Like it's like group therapy.
Definitely. That's awesome. So how would you best describe the type of artist you are?
That's a loaded question. Complicated. I'd say I'm a complicated artist. I would argue that I'm hard to read and I'm hard to predict. But I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
The boys never know what I'm bringing to them or what the lyrics are going to be. And it's fun not always knowing what's going on.
Right.
It's fun being chaotic. I don't like having a full grasp of everything that's happening. I like the unknown. And that used to terrify me. But I love now, like, getting excited, not knowing what's coming next. I don't know what's going to come out of me a week from now. I don't know what songs I'm going to write in the future. And I love that.
Yeah. It keeps it interesting for you, and everyone else is like entertained by what's coming next.
Yeah. I like people are like, oh, well, what do you want to write next? And I'm like, that's the fun thing. I have no clue what's going to happen.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm just like living day by day, and if a cool song pops in my head, it pops in my head.
Right.
A cool idea comes in. If I want to do photos or whatever, like whatever I want to put out, I don't know when it's coming. I don't know what it is, but
yeah,
that's the fun thing.
You'll find out when I find out.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about being an artist. You never really, I haven't tapped into everything that's inside of me. For the rest of my life, I get to discover new things about myself.
That's awesome.
And that's cool.
Yeah, it keeps you excited, keeps things fresh, and like being predictable can get really boring and monotonous.
Yeah.
So
I never want to be predictable. I never want somebody to like go to one of my shows knowing that there's a new song and be like, God, I know what this is going to sound like. You know?
Right. That's awesome. So you've played on Broadway quite a bit. What would you say is something you've learned playing on Broadway?
I think I learned how to be a little more assertive and like be on my toes. Broadway is definitely, like you said earlier off camera, like kill or be killed. Obviously not like in the sense of actual like murder, but like you have to fend for yourself. You can have friends and stuff, but everybody at the end of the day there is making sure that they eat and that they get their shifts and they get their bills paid. And I think working on Broadway, I kind of was thrown in with no preparation. I had to very quickly learn how to hold myself and take charge of myself. And I became just a lot more assertive and confident in how I carried myself down there. That's my biggest like benefit from working on Broadway, was the fact that so quickly I had to be like, okay, well you're not like taking this from anybody anymore. Like even just something as simple as like trying to get my gear down the packed like Broadway streets to one of the bars. Learning very quickly that like I have to tell people to move. I have to raise my voice. I can't be this quiet, like, excuse me, sorry, or I'd never get where I need to go.
Right.
Yeah. Like obviously there's like, you have musical benefits of like learning like just theory on the fly and learning how to read other musicians and stuff. But I think my personality and like my confidence is the biggest thing that I've gotten from Broadway that's changed about me.
Yeah. Everyone seems pretty bloodthirsty on Broadway. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't call it bloodthirsty. Nobody's outright like trying to kill each other.
But they're all trying to get their bag.
Yeah. Everybody's out for themselves. That's not a bad thing. I'm out for myself.
Yeah.
As far as Broadway is concerned, when it comes to the band, I'm out for all of us. But as far as Broadway is concerned, I'm out for myself. I'm out to get myself shifts. I'm there to get myself booked. I'm there to make myself money. If I can help somebody along the way, that's great.
Yeah.
I will take that opportunity to do so. But nobody really like fully 100% has your back down there. You have to really, really have your own.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've heard others say you won't change Broadway. Like you're not going to just come down there and be like, I'm going to play all my original songs. Yeah, be like, you won't get paid.
Yeah, it is its own beast. And I think that's why it's healthy that for the most part, most of us see it as like, this is my job. I'm clocking in, I'm putting on a good performance, I'm reading the crowd, I'm making money, we have this exchange, this transaction, and then I'm going to clock out and go home. Not letting it become part of your identity and not letting it become like, this is the end all be all of my music career.
Yeah.
It's really, really important to survive down there.
Because you can see a lot of people where that is the case. They've gotten stuck on Broadway and that's the end of the road for them.
Yeah, my vocal coach, every time I mention Broadway, he like takes my hand. He's like, you need to promise me That like I'm not putting all this work into you for you to just 10 years from now still be playing on Broadway. And there's nothing, I want to like preface this by saying there's nothing wrong with Broadway being your whole career.
Sure.
There are people that have made incredible careers on Broadway, made a ton of money, have been playing down there 20, 30 years. There's nothing wrong with that. But people that go down Broadway expecting like that's where they're going to get discovered, that's where they're going to get their originals played, like that will slowly eat you, and you will suddenly like wake up at 35 and all you've been doing is playing Any Man of Mine at Tootsie's 3 nights a week for 10 years, you know?
Yeah. You kind of have to get in and then get out.
Yeah, you get in, you get your skills, you make your connections, you make your money for a few years. And if you want to, you know, be a, you know, recording artist, a solo artist, like have your own name out there, then you got to get out before that. I say like 5 years.
Yeah.
Get out before that 5 years is up. I'm going to be coming up on my 2nd year here soon.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good.
But if you want Broadway to be your career, I know it's a lot of people's dream jobs, and I respect that. I am not, admittedly, a good enough musician on the fly to make Broadway like my career for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
There are incredible musicians down there that are just
can adapt to any situation.
Yeah. And that's their full-time job, and they've been down there for years, and they're incredible. I respect the hell out of them. So right. I don't want it to come across like there's anything wrong with people that make their life off of Broadway.
It's all about what your dreams and like kind of where your ambitions lie, and
yeah, for sure.
It's individual to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remind myself all the time that even though I see Broadway as like a stepping stone and just a way to like make money and like, you know, keep myself like well practiced, I am working somebody's dream job. There are people all over the world that practice and go to school and master their craft just with the intention of moving to Nashville and working on Broadway. So I'm aware that I am very privileged, and I'm very, very grateful for the position that I have on Broadway, because I know that that's somebody's dream job.
Right.
And so I respect the position as much as I can with that like in mind.
Sure. When would you say is your favorite time of day to create?
Late at night.
Late at night?
Mm-hmm. Like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning is usually my gold spot. The guys will wake up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've just gone to bed, and I'm like, here's a demo of a song that I wrote.
Like, why are y'all going to bed? I just got done.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's for some reason, I think that's where like my inhibitions go the lowest, and I get most honest with myself. I'm more emotional late at night. It's been a long day. I'm tired, and the walls and the boundaries aren't really there anymore. I think that's why I can write the best late at night. You're like
everything's so right then and there.
Yes. Like I'm most raw and like vulnerable late at night because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And when I'm tired, I'm an emotional mess. And when I'm an emotional mess is personally when I think I write the best. So
yeah, nice. So what would you say your strengths and weaknesses as an artist are?
I would say one of my biggest strengths is that I'm very aware of who I am. I'm very authentic to myself. I know what I am. I know what I'm doing. I don't have like a fake like persona. Like when you get me, you get me. But one of my weaknesses is that I am just like, I just really don't like being social. And that is an issue for an artist that has to network and has to, you know, be around people after shows and stuff. I'm very socially awkward. I don't like crowds. I don't like groups. It's ironic for me to say this being in a hard rock band. I don't like loud noise. And one of my issues that I'm still working on is at the moment I get off stage, I want so badly to like go get in my car and drive home and be alone. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. Like part of the job is like being present. And I still have a really hard time with that. I get really, really easily overstimulated and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I don't like being around people.
It's the surface level conversations that are just annoying.
That, and I think a lot of people don't realize that growing up, like, my safety was in being alone. So that's what I know and what I'm used to. And whenever I feel threatened, whenever there's too much going on, I want to go back to that, like, 14-year-old me that sat alone in a room, because that's where I was safe. And so I have to constantly remind myself, like, you're safe, you're wanted, people are here to see you. Nobody's going to hopefully walk up to your face and, like, say something awful to you and make you feel bad about yourself. Like, you need to be present tonight. Like, that's important. You need to network, you need to talk to people, you need to make connections with people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm still working on, is making myself want to be out in the world.
Yeah, I understand.
Like, I wish we could, as a band, like, blow up and be super successful with me literally just getting on stage, performing, and leaving, and nobody ever saw me outside of that. But unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Right. And the larger you get, the more attention people are going to want of you. Like, be able to talk to you, and like, the higher you go, the less you're going to be alone.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're nothing. We are not important. We are not special. Like, so I'm not saying this to be like, oh, we're getting so big that whatever. But, like, I'm starting to kind of be slightly known, and we're getting a bigger social media presence. And I already, like, just get so, like I'll go to, like, see friend shows, and I just, like, sit in the back with, like, my glasses on and, like, my hair pulled up, and I'm like, I just hope to God nobody comes up and is like, hey, I know you, da 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 da. Because I'm like, and it's not that I dislike people, but, like, I hate being approached. I hate, like, strangers coming up and talking to me. It makes me so uncomfortable. So I'm already finding myself, like, avoiding public areas and, like, throwing my glasses on and being like, nobody talk to me. Not in, like, a haughty way, not like, oh, I'm too good for you, but just like, I'm so anxious and scared. I don't want to talk to people. Please don't come up and talk to me.
Right, I understand. So how long have you been in Nashville now?
It'll be 2 years in October.
Nice. And what initially brought you here?
Just, like, I didn't really have much to write on. I originally was on the path to go to med school, and I was miserable, and I kind of sat down and had a conversation with myself of, like, okay, you were, like, trying to do the adult thing and push your dreams of being a musician to the side and, like, be stable and secure. I'm going to be a doctor. I was like, listen, I tried this. I'm 5 years in. I'm miserable. I hate everything about this. I can't go through med school and, like, after all that money, all that time, realize that I'm still miserable. I have to do it now. So I, like, dropped everything. At the time, I had a friend up there that was willing to move down with me. She was a hairstylist, so she could transfer to kind of anywhere. And within, like, 2 months, we kind of just made the plan of, like, let's find an apartment. Let's do it. And we got our asses down here, and I did the damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not friends anymore, but she was the one that came down with me, and it was just kind of us sitting there being girls dreaming, like, what if we just moved to Nashville? What if I just tried to be a musician? What if I just, like, tried to see how it would work out? Like, give myself a couple of years and see what I can do.
Yeah. Where were you in school?
I was going to Wright State. I was about to graduate, and I was applying to medical schools, and I did get accepted to one. It's like when you apply to college when you're still in high school and you haven't graduated high school, but you're already getting accepted. It was one of those things. I got accepted to one school before I had even graduated from Wright State, and I ended up, I don't even know if my parents know this, I ended up failing multiple classes, so I could not graduate that semester. So I couldn't have, like, graduated and then, like, gone on to the med school, but I still attended. It was during the pandemic, so the orientation was all mine, but I still went to the orientation. I remember that orientation being so stressful, but, like, that was what made me sit down and be like, I'm not doing this. I'm going to Nashville. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So I was going to Wright State.
What kind of doctor were you, I guess, trying to be at the time?
I wanted to be an intravascular neurosurgeon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was in all the neuro classes. I did a little, like, internship at a morgue doing, like, autopsy stuff. Like, I was in. I was all in. I was gonna be a surgeon.
Wow.
In the beginning, I did have passion for it. I still have a huge passion for the medical field. I love medical documentaries. I still love, like, watching cool like surgeries and stuff online. But that school and just the way that pre-med and med students are treated, like it beat all the passion out of me. So by like year 3, I was like, this sucks. I hate this.
Yeah.
And then I still did 2 more years after that because I was like, no, we're going to push through. We're going to do it. And meanwhile, God and everybody else like was screaming at me like, this is not where you're supposed to be. But
Right. That's like Jonathan Davis. He was a mortician before he was a singer. Do you know Jonathan Davis of Korn?
I didn't know that he was a
Yeah. Yeah, he was a mortician.
Huh.
And he was like full like on going down that route, and then he decided, no, I'm not gonna do this.
I think in another life, I would have actually been a really good doctor. I think I would have been a really good surgeon, but it not in the cards for this life.
Yeah.
I was in the labs with my headphones in, like daydreaming about being on a stage performing. Like it I was working so hard to shove my like real dream into the back of my head because I was like, no, it's not practical. It's not what adults do. And I finally had just had enough. I was like, I'm literally going to end up like doing something permanent and dangerous if I stay in this life. So I kind of had to drop everything and take the risk. And thank God it's working out.
Right. What would you say is something you've learned living in Nashville?
Being authentic, while it's difficult, truly is rewarded in time. That is what I would tell anybody coming down here. That is like the biggest lesson to learn. In the beginning, being like fake, having a persona, like not making any genuine connections with people, it might get you somewhere in the very, very beginning, but that will run out very quickly. Being authentic, keeping to yourself, and just really being true to your identity and not putting on a persona, not trying to be something that you aren't. It's not going to get you a lot of attention in the beginning, and it's going to be really rough, but it pays off so much further and so much better than coming in as something that you're not.
Right.
So that's my biggest thing that I've learned and like really like dig into.
Nice. Do you have a favorite venue here?
My favorite venue here, I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I love Exit In. I also love the East Room.
Oh yeah, the East Room.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's grungy, it's dirty, but that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's like a rock and roll club.
It's like a little big venue. It's got the higher up stage and it has the balcony. I love it.
I know, yeah, there's something like very intimate and cool. And when I'm there, if I'm like dressed up, like watching one of my friends, like my friend Molly from Omen Bringer puts on an incredible show, and they put at the East Room multiple times. And it's so fun. Like every time I get dressed up and go see a show there, I just jumping around in the audience with all the other people, I feel like I'm back in like the 80s on Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
Like there's just the vibe of that venue is just like dingy and underground and like super cool.
It's so dark.
Yeah. And it smells like cigarettes and beer, and they got that courtyard out back with like cigarette butts everywhere. It's very like authentic. I love it. I love a nice, nasty rock and roll club.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Cobra in some ways. Cobra's like a nasty rock. It still has that 80s kind of vibe to it.
It does. I'm nothing against the Cobra. We've played there before and we're playing there again. But the sound system, I'm not a fan of at the Cobra. That's the only reason that like they're not one of my favorite venues, is just because the sound I feel like is always kind of weird there.
Yeah. And it used to be a lot worse.
And from what I've heard.
Like they just recently upgraded it like a couple of years ago, but before that it was really bad.
And that honestly, that things not being perfect is kind of the charm of those like rock clubs.
Yeah.
But the uppity like musician in myself is like, no, we have to sound good. Everything has to be clean. We have to have a good mix. Like,
yeah, I understand. Do you have a favorite food or restaurant here?
Gosh, let me think. I really love, um, oh my God, what's it called? It's called like pasta penne or something. I never get to get it because it's like on the other side of Nashville, but it's in like the L&L market, and they have this mushroom ragu pasta that is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And every time somebody's like, you get to choose, where are we going for dinner? I'm like, we're going there. And I love that I love it so much, but I can't remember the name of it for some reason because that's how tired I am. Yeah, it's called like pasta penne or whatever, but it's in the L&L market. It's in the very front, and everything is farm to table pasta. And I recommend it to everybody that comes into town. It's so good.
Okay, cool. I'll try that. Do you have a favorite park?
Um, I'm boring and basic when it comes to parks. I'm not a huge like I love to like hike like out like the woods and stuff. When it comes to like a park, I'm not like a walker. I
Oh,
love to just take a blanket to the Parthenon
oh yeah.
thing and just lay out in the sun with my girls and like have some snacks and lay by the water. Like I don't
Nice.
know, it's cool over there. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I like that
So
little pond they have.
mhm. I wish I had a really cool like hiking area that I could suggest, but I just like to go lay by the Parthenon.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what is some advice you'd give to someone who's going to move here and do art?
Um, hmm. Watch your back. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You can still dream, you can still take chances. I say probably because sometimes it really is awesome and you should take that opportunity. But always do your due diligence, always research people, always figure out somebody's reputation so you don't get burned. And never ever like divulge something about yourself to someone else that you would not want posted online.
Wow,
That
yeah.
is, yeah. I had some instances earlier last year. Nothing like crazy. It's not like anybody like leaked something awful about me, but just I had this friend group and it was with the girl that I moved down here with, and they were my best friends. So I would divulge like secrets and that kind of stuff, and it was all being sent around in memes and whatever and being posted everywhere. Um, and I very quickly realized that like even if it's your best friend, if you would not be okay with other people discussing it, don't say it
Yeah.
because people love to gossip here. People
Right.
love to gossip here. And I mean, everybody loves to gossip. Everybody likes to talk about like the new thing that happened with somebody, but don't, I guess, yeah, don't shit talk unless you want to be shit talked.
Right. Yeah, and I've also heard like don't always share your ambitions. People.
No, never, never, ever give anybody a game plan because they're asking so they can have the blueprint.
Right, and
Mhm.
then you unlock Murphy's Law.
Yeah, don't like every time somebody's like, so what's next for you? What's coming in? Like, I'm just like, oh, we've got some cool opportunities coming up. We're working hard. We'll let you know as they happen. I never name names, and they're like, oh, this is about to happen. We're hoping this happens. We're in the talks for this because most of the time people are not asking because they want to support you. They're asking because they're nosy.
That and yeah, they're intimidated or like
Mm-hmm.
want to sabotage.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like with that same group I mentioned earlier, the amount of times that I'm like, oh yeah, this person wants to work with me, whatever, and that person would get a message from somebody like, you shouldn't work with her. She's crazy. Da da da. Like there's just the sabotage here is nuts. I'll never understand it because there's not a set amount of people that can be successful musicians in the world.
Right.
It's not like the
It's
NFL where
not a
there's
zero sum game.
yeah, it's not like the NFL where there's a certain amount of spots and you have to like work your ass off to make sure that you get one of those spots and tear the people down around you. You have to beat them. You can be in a room with a ton of musicians and every single person in that room could all get famous at the same time and it doesn't take anything away from you. So I will never understand like sabotaging other people's careers.
Right.
That's never like been a thing.
Right. Yeah. It's like especially if you meet someone and they're like really sad, don't tell them your ambitions, because if they don't have an identity for themselves, you've created one by them sabotaging you.
It is scary how somebody will warp their entire identity around just hating you.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of those here where their entire identity is just, I hate Kameron Jane. All I'm going to do is talk about her.
Right.
And I'm like,
if she loses, I win.
Yeah, literally, that's how it is. And it's, I feel bad for them, because what a sad existence to base all of your time and motivation off of hating somebody else.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Like, all your goals in life are making sure that I don't win versus making you. I'm like, all this time and energy that you're putting into trying to screw me over, you could be putting into giving yourself a great life.
Right.
But you're so like taken over with the fact that like you don't like me and you don't want to see me succeed, that's clouding all the other opportunities that could be coming somewhere else for you.
Right.
It's very sad.
Those people will get left behind.
Oh, I left them behind.
Well, I mean, like, life will leave them behind.
Yeah. I don't mean to be, like, mean, but, you know, God has a funny way of humbling the people that have tried to screw me over. So I think that's just how life kind of is in general. If you waste all your time trying to screw other people over, you're going to get yours, and you're not probably going to have the best life, the best experience.
Right.
It's just how it is.
Right. Okay, cool. So reflecting back on when you first started as an artist, what is like one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, and how did you get through it?
I'm trying to like think about how like much I want to say in front of a camera. So when I first moved down here, I moved down here with somebody that I thought was my best friend. And I was a very insecure person when I came down. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was drinking way too much. I was like getting sick all the time. Like my freaking hair was even falling out. Like I don't know really what was up with me, but I thought that she was like the most like beautiful, put together person. And essentially I kind of was like, oh, she's doing charity by being my friend. And she really, really fed off of that. So we came down here as best friends. And over the time of just like meeting new people and finding myself, I slowly became a much more confident human being. And I started to take care of myself and get healthy. And I stopped drinking. And I kind of like literally had an overnight transformation from this like very unhealthy, naive, shy, scared, like low self-esteem individual to like a confident artist that like knew herself and took care of herself. And that person did not like that, because now she didn't get to be like put on a pedestal around me. And I tried to make the friendship work, but it came out that she was just saying awful things about me and going behind my back, and she just did some really nasty things. And when I finally cut her off and I moved out, she took pretty much our whole friend group with her. And so losing essentially all of my, not all of them, but a majority of my friends, a majority of my social group, and losing where I was staying and losing my identity of being like her best friend and her accessory was really, really hard, because I suddenly was moving into this new place with new people, and I was like, I have to go out, I have to make all new friends. And I am now thankful for how hateful she was to me, because it really, really drove me to be motivated, and like, I've gotten some great song content out of what she did selfishly. And so now I'm thankful for it. Now I kind of look back and I'm like, I can't believe that like she bothered me that bad. But at the time it was really, really hard. I was like, I have nobody here. I had a moment of like, did I just ruin my life picking up everything and moving down here with somebody that secretly hated me? I had nothing going on in music right now. I have no friends. She took all of our friends with her. Having that, and then also moving into a new place, having no Broadway gigs at the time, like that was really, really stressful. I totally had a feeling of like, should I move back to Ohio and just cut my losses? And thank God I didn't, because literally 2 months after that, like things started to blow up and take off. But that was this last summer was a really, really rough summer for me. Just figuring that out. And now I have like the most incredible friends in the world. I've got incredible bandmates. I have an incredible life. I'm so thankful for the life that I have now.
Yeah.
I made it.
Yeah.
But it was rough.
Right. This was last year?
This was like, I think I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you say these awful things to me. I have to move out, like, late August. And our lease was technically up October 31st, but I paid through the end of the lease and was like, here, you have the place to yourself. I'm moving out. And I moved out, like, middle to end of September, I think. And I finally cut her off, like, beginning of October. I, like, removed her off of everything. She had all of her stuff. I had all of my stuff. I never gave her we never had like a blow up fight, a confrontation. I never sent her like the 6 paragraphs of like, this is why I'm not talking anymore. This is why I'm not your friend. She just woke up one day and she was blocked on everything. And we haven't spoken since.
Yeah. And you found a new apartment or a new house?
I moved into a house in East. It's like a duplex, and I'm so happy there. My like neighbor people on the other side of the duplex are incredible people.
Nice. Do you have a roommate?
No.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like an open duplex. We like each other's cats, so we keep like the middle open, and our cats go back and forth. But
wow,
it's I almost kind of want to thank those people for being like, thank you for like hating me and like being so awful to me that I finally like put my foot down and stood up for myself and cut all of you off and moved on and like really decided to put myself first, because like I've been blessed with like so many beautiful experiences and people in my life now since that happened. God really came in and like rewarded me for finally standing up for myself, like for the first time in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Instead of hanging around people that kind of don't really like you, but they hang around you, and so you feel like you kind of have friends, but really they're just like slowly cutting at you.
Yeah, I don't think they ever really liked me or really were like my friends, but I think I was funny sometimes and I was entertainment to them when I got too drunk and did stupid things, and they were friends with her and I was always with her, and so that was just kind of how it went. And when I stopped drinking and I really was like, okay, well, I have to take care of myself. I have to focus on me and my career. Nobody really had any interest in being around me anymore.
Right.
Which that's kind of how it goes.
It does. I mean, as you change, you kind of fall away from old friends, or because if they don't change too, then it's not really collaborative anymore.
Yeah, and I don't like have like bad wishes on any of them. Like, I wish nothing but the best for them, and they're on their own journey, but I needed like a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be around people that I knew were still mutually like feeding any information from me to this person. So I just was like, okay, guys, I love you from afar. Have a nice life. I can't be around you anymore.
Right. That's good.
And now I have the best girls in the world, like my girl squad. Like, they're my best friends. I love them to death. And those are my ride or dies. So
nice.
I found my people.
Awesome. This might be along the same lines, but what would you say is your biggest personal growth from last year to this year?
Being sure of myself. This time last year, I really, really hated myself. I was incredibly insecure. I was attention seeking. And I was very naive in assuming that even though people were mean to me, they still like loved me. And I would let it happen because I had this idea of like, oh, well, nobody is ever going to really love me, so I have to put up with being treated this way if I want any friends. And I think my biggest growth from that is I now like know my worth as a human being. I know my worth in like treating people with kindness and being authentic with them and creating genuine friendships with people versus just being like, oh, well, I have to like be friends with this person even though they treat me awful because otherwise I won't have anybody else. I'm confident in who I am, and I know as I still have insecurities, I still have self-esteem issues, but I now know that like I do have something worth being around, and I do have a good heart, and the people that I love very fiercely. and knowing that about myself. Knowing that I have something worth loving has been my biggest overcome thing. I still struggle with it, but
it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah, I'll never. Nobody ever becomes 100% self-confident, but even like people that knew me throughout all that process last summer to now, they're like, you're literally a different person. They're like, who is this Cameron that I met in October of 2022? This is not the same person. And they say it in a loving way.
Yeah.
Of like, you don't hate yourself anymore. I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how can people support you as an artist?
Stream our music. Stream our music on Spotify. We have 2 songs on Spotify. Jane and the Killer Queens. We have The Hand That Feeds You and Gun in a Church. Fun fact, Hand That Feeds You is actually about that person last summer that like tried to ruin my life. We got a really great, that's why I said we got a really great song out of it, if anything. So I'm thankful for that whole experience. I'm thankful for her being so awful to me because I got a great song out of it. But yeah, streaming, helping our numbers on any like online services, following the band page. We have 2 shows coming up this August. So if you follow the band page, you can come to those. We put on a really good show. We have a great time. I love interacting with everybody in the audience. I always stay behind and like say hi to everybody and thank them for coming. And we're back in the studio Sunday, recording 2 new songs that are coming out soon. So when those come out, if y'all want to stream them and help us get some radio play, that'd be great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
How do you like to consume media? Do you have favorite YouTube videos, or do you?
I'm a big music listener just from Spotify. I'm constantly telling my Alexa to play Spotify. Even though Spotify does not treat its artists very well. A lot of like the weird indie artists that I listen to are only on Spotify. And then I also just like I love like Netflix. I love like crappy TV shows, Sex and the City, The Sopranos. Like I don't have a lot of time to watch it. It's probably like twice a month that I actually get to sit down and like I'm watching a few episodes of a show right now. But I do love it. And then I get on YouTube every once in a while, but it's not for music related things.
Oh yeah.
I love I just love like weird like deep dive things on YouTube. I'll find somebody will be like, here's a 2-hour essay on like sea barnacles, and I'm like, sign me up. I love like random like knowledge dumps and like deep dives and that kind of stuff. So I just learning weird things from YouTube.
Awesome. Do you have any favorite books or movies?
My favorite movie of all time is Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak. It is a romantic gothic horror, and it's directed by Guillermo del Toro, and it's also got a beautiful soundtrack. And I'm not going to offend the man that made the soundtrack by trying to pronounce his name. Gorgeous soundtrack. I actually own it, and it has Mia Wasikowska, Jessica Chastain, and Tom Hiddleston. And it's a romantic ghost story that takes place in like the Industrial Revolution in Buffalo, New York, and London.
Wow.
And it's a gorgeous film. It's the most visually stunning film I've ever seen in my life. I could probably do one of those 2-hour YouTube deep dives on this movie just because of how much I love it and how much I know about it. But yeah, anytime somebody's like, I want to watch a cool movie, what should I watch? And I'm like, you've never heard of this movie, but you need to watch it. It's on Netflix. It's called Crimson Peak. Incredible film. It's so good.
Awesome. What about, do you like to read?
I don't read a ton because my brain is always going so fast, but I'll read 3 pages and then be like, I have no idea what I just read. I have to go back. But I read my Bible a lot. I try to read a Proverbs a day. I don't always get to it, but I try to read a Proverbs a day, just because each chapter in Proverbs, even if you're not a Christian, Proverbs is just a great thing to read, because it kind of just teaches you about like trusting in yourself, trusting in life, being a good person. There's really great like life lessons about like what gossip can do to your life, what greed can do to your life. So while I don't read a ton of like books, I have great books in my home that I just haven't gotten to that were gifted to me. But yeah, even if you're not religious, even if you're not a Christian, Proverbs just has great life lessons. So I try to read Proverbs as much as I can.
Nice. What is that your favorite book of the Bible?
My favorite book of the Bible is actually Esther. Esther, was a woman that was taken in as a princess and, helped release a lot of captives. And she has a beautiful story because she came from absolutely nothing and ended up a queen. And a very powerful queen that loved her people and took care of her people and ended up, this was unheard of in those times, but she ended up actually advising her king. And he actually listened to her and ended up being a great ruler, which never happened back then. Queens never really got any say, and their kings did not listen to them. But she was just a good speaker, and she was a very confident woman, and I really admire her. And Esther has my favorite verse of all time, Esther 4:14. Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And I get chills talking about it because it's just so powerful of like, no matter what you believe, God, the universe, nothing, just the belief that like you were placed in this specific time for right now. You are important to what is happening right now. You're supposed to be here. You have a place here. And I love that. That's just why I love that chapter, that book, and specifically that verse.
Yeah, awesome.
Just the belief that anybody can come from anything.
Yeah. You can start at the bottom and get to the top.
Mm-hmm.
You can be at the top and go to the bottom.
Yeah, you can be delivered from any situation that you're in.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, really love about that book.
Awesome. Well, is there anything you would like to add that I might not have asked you about?
I don't know. You had a pretty in-depth interview. I'm very impressed. You asked like everything. Gosh, I don't know. Is there anything like just that you feel like you don't know about me that you want to know about the band? Anything you want to pick my brain about?
It's a great question. What is your favorite song to sing?
Right now, it's our song One of Four that we're recording next week. I love singing that song. I'm not going to get like crazy into it, but there is a very dark, like hurtful story behind it. And it's so nice to just scream those lyrics out on stage. And the chorus is very catchy. So usually by the end of the song, I've got all these other women screaming it back at me. And I'm like, yes! Like I feel like I'm like a gospel choir, and it's just everybody singing together, right? It's like a church service, but metal and female rage, and it's such a fun song to sing. And the guys get into it. When we played it for the first time in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, and our bassist Alex Shipley, he turned to me after that song with tears in his eyes, and he's like, that was like powerful as hell.
Oh yeah.
Like watching you perform that, having all of us like just put the music to it, having the crowd yell it back, like there's something about that song. We don't completely know what it is yet, but you guys will get to hear it soon.
Nice. What about a song that you didn't write? What is your favorite song to sing?
It always changes, but right now what I really like pulling out downtown is Separate Ways by Journey.
Oh really?
It's just so dramatic. Steve Perry had such a flair for writing these dramatic ass songs that were very cinematic, and the synth, the way that it comes in, I love vocally what I get to do with it. Separate Ways has been every like month a new song comes in. I'm like, oh, I love this one. I'm gonna keep pulling this one out. I think the month before that it was Are You Gonna Be My Girl by Jet. That's a fun one. It isn't vocally really interesting, but you get to dance around and have fun and be crazy. But yeah, right now it's Separate Ways by Journey. I don't know what it'll be a few weeks from now.
Okay, cool. I have one more question.
Yeah, what's up?
What is something absurd you love or do?
Something absurd?
That you love or do, yeah.
Oh my gosh, let me think. I mean spiders, but everybody, like, that's like my brand. Everybody knows that. I mean, gosh, I have my spider earrings and my spider ring on. Like, I love spiders, but I have to think of something that not everybody already knows about me that isn't redundant to say. Oh my gosh, I would like to say that I'm like an absurd, like crazy, weird person. But I collect rocks. I spend way too much money on rocks. And like finding them on the street. I have a whole I have shelves and shelves in my home of rocks and crystals and stuff. And people think that's nuts. I also collect incense. I think I have over 50 different scents of incense. Yeah, I wish I had something more interesting to say. And I'm sure that an hour from now I'll be driving and be like, damn it, I should have said that. That's weird. But I can't think of anything like, I feel like I'm so open about how weird I am now, and I'm so like upfront about it.
Yeah.
That I can't think of anything like unknown.
Oh yeah.
About me.
What is your favorite spider?
I love orb weavers.
Orb
weavers. So you know those like when you go out into a garden and you see those giant webs and those giant black and yellow spiders.
Yeah.
It's a certain kind of orb weaver, and they're very docile, they're very gentle, they're very nice. You can literally just pick them up and they'll hang out on your hands. They're so beautiful. I love them. I love orb weavers. I also love tarantulas. Mexican red knee, curly hair, Chilean rose hair, Arizona blonde. I really want an Arizona blonde. That's another thing that I could talk about for probably 2 hours is spiders.
How do you hold, like, with your tarantula, do you just take it out and play with it, or how does it?
You can't really play with them because they don't really have, like, they can have, like, personalities as far as, like, this one is mean and this one isn't, and this one's okay with being held and this one doesn't like being held. But as far as, like, personalities and playing with them, you can't really because they don't have brains.
Oh, wow.
They have a bundle of cells in their head called ganglia, and all it really does is tell the spider, like, eat, sleep, make a web, make more spiders.
It's all instinctual.
Yeah, it's all instinctual. So, like, my tarantula, she will never, like, love me. She'll never even, like, really, like, trust me or like me. But she recognizes me as somebody that is not a threat, or something that isn't a threat, and as something that brings her food. So that's why she's cool with me. I'll literally just reach in and pick her up. And she can crawl on me. I've had her on my face for photos. Like, she can hang out all over me, and she never bit me. She never flicked hairs at me.
Flicked hairs at you?
Yeah, they have, like, hairs on their butt, and when they're being chased, they can flick them up into the air, and they get really itchy. That's like a really bad, like, irritant. So if you spook her, she might, like, flick hairs at you, and then, like, your hands are just, like, itchy for a day or two.
Wow.
But
you've never been bitten by a tarantula?
Nope, never been bitten by a spider in my life.
Oh.
And God knows, you can ask my friends. I am the first person when I'm out, if I see a spider somewhere, I'll just pick it up.
So it's black widow?
I wouldn't touch a black widow or a recluse.
Okay.
Or a wolf spider. Wolf spiders, they aren't, like, medically significant, but their bites freaking hurt.
Yeah.
And they like to bite people. So I will respect them from a distance. I still think they're beautiful babies. I appreciate them. I love them. I would maybe kill a recluse. Because recluses will kill people. But widows, wolf spiders, all that kind of stuff, they are welcome to live in my home and hang out as long as they don't bother me. Or my cat. So
nice. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming over and doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome.